Okay, so I guess I'm going to do it now. Um, so the dark time in my life in when I attempted suicide was in 1992. It was right after um let's see, Tony and I separated March 31st of 1992. And I always say that it was in 1992 when I attempted suicide. It could have been at the top of 1993. Um because when mom had called me after she received the letter that I had sent to your house, and I explained everything inside that letter. Um, I know when she was talking to me, um, or actually lecturing me, the one thing that she had said, she goes, "A year ago, I buried my brother. A year ago, I buried my mother. I do not want to come back and bury you." And she was um, stern when she said it, in a deep toned voice, but you could also tell um, the sorrow that was in her voice at the same time, if that makes any sense. She was very hurt and devastated by the whole entire thing. And I remember thinking to myself, don't you mean like a year and a half? Because it wasn't quite 2 years. Um, and it was that March of 1993 is when I got my only birthday card from her. And it wasn't a standard birthday card that you buy at the store. It was one of those um, cards that you got that had like a little saying on the front, like those bulk cards that were in like a box or something. Um, and then you open it up, and it was blank on the left side, and it had like a little saying in the center, and she wrote, "Love, Mama," in it, and she dated it for March of 1993, and on the left hand side she wrote me a letter, the only letter that I ever received from her, and um, it I I don't know what happened to that card. I don't even think I still have it. I don't know. I don't remember. All my stuff is packed in Orange County. But it said "my dearest daughter, niece" on it. Um that's how it was entitled, and she spelt my name out and wrote, whatever it is that she wrote. I can't think clearly right now what it actually said. I don't remember all of it. I just remember some of it, and at the very bottom it said, "I love you very much. Love, Mama," on it, and because that's what I would call her. I told you I never called her Mom. I never called her MOM. I always called her Mama, and I always spelt Mama MAWMA. But what provoked me to attempt suicide, and I've done videos on it, and I've shared, like, um some of the conversation that I had with Mom. I don't remember all of it. It was a very long conversation. She gave me a lecture from hell. She really did, and promised me I would not be sitting down when she saw me. But I had explained everything in that letter. It was a very long letter. It was back to back, like 6 or 12 pages. Um, so maybe 6 pages back to back, which would be 12 pages. I remember it was being very long, and I used to write very little. And when I wrote that letter, I was at a friend's house, Scott's house. I had called him and asked him to come get me after my attempt of suicide, and I told him I could not be here. Um, and he came and got me and took me to his house, and I was there for a few weeks. And during the course of those few weeks that I was there, I wrote a letter to Mom, and I would never have shared that letter with anybody, but I wanted the spelling to be corrected. Um, and because she would say, because I would always write Mom letters, and this one time she had said, "Do I need to send you a dictionary?" And I'm like, "No, ma'am, I have a dictionary." She goes, "You need to learn to use that dictionary," because I didn't spell very well. And so it was hard for her sometimes to decipher what I was trying to say. And I mean, she would always she would always figure it out. So in this particular letter, I had asked Scott, and I told him, because him and his brother were good with English and grammar and punctuation and stuff. And I said, I would never do this, but could you please read the letter? I said, and correct my spelling. And so he was up all night. I had went to bed, or they put me to bed rather, and I was under lock and key. They made sure there was nothing that could hurt me and stuff like that, in case I did anything. And I said I wouldn't. I promised that I would not. And he read through it a couple of times, corrected the spelling, and then his brother went through the letter and corrected the spelling and punctuation. And so then the next day, I rewrote that letter to Mom. And the one that I had corrected, I tore up. Well, the first one I wrote, I tore up. And I sent Mom the corrected version. It was the exact same thing, I just did all the corrections on it. So that way she wouldn't struggle trying to figure out what I was trying to convey inside that letter. And I did not have a large vocabulary at that age. I probably should have, but I didn't. A lot of people told me I was illiterate, but I really wasn't illiterate. I just didn't know stuff. I didn't know vocabulary. I was not taught properly in Mom's eyes. And she would always, when she saw me physically, she would teach me stuff. But anyway, so what provoked me to do this? Yes, it was a very dark time when your Uncle Ollie died in 1991 in May. I knew he was going to die. We all did, because he had cancer, and it was very hard, and I was devastated by it, and I thought I was never going to see anybody again. And Mom insured me the day before the actual funeral. It was on a Monday. We had his funeral on. It was on a Tuesday. That's the day that she sang to me. Her and I had left the mortuary, and we went to the RV in the mobile home park where your Uncle Ollie and Dee lived. And we were there for a couple of hours. Mom had a splitting headache and she wanted to rest, and she took me with her to make sure that I was protected and I wouldn't get into mischief at the mortuary, because I would get into mischief and do stuff I wasn't supposed to and argue with family, not the Waltman family, but Rosa's side of the family. And she didn't want that, so she took me with her. And on the way back to the mortuary, that's when she sang to me, "You Decorated My Life" by Kenny Rogers. And when we got back into the mortuary, her and I were in the car, and she looked at me and she took me, put her hand up underneath my chin and brought me to her in the driver's seat. And she said, and put her arms around me, and she says, "Do you understand what I'm trying to say to you?" She said, "You're very special and dear to me." And obviously, I always knew that. And she said, "Nothing's going to change. You have no worries about anything. I will try to come and see you as much as I humanly possibly can. Because you're not working, maybe I can bring you with me over the road, for a couple of months, and things like that." And she said, "I will always make time for you. I don't want you to worry about anything." And that was the day, not that day, it was the next day, is when her and I got into that big gigantic argument, which I didn't think was going to have any bearing on anything. Well, apparently, I don't know what did, actually, because that's the day your father had said to me, the day of your uncle's burial, that he told me outside in the corridor of the mobile home park after the funeral, after me and Mom's argument and stuff like that happened. He told me, he goes, "The two of you are too close. Your relationship is unnatural, and I'm going to put an end to it." And I just went off, not on your dad. Me and Mom went to the RV, and I told her exactly what Uncle Bud had said to me, because he had said, "Don't you dare go back and tell Aunt Marie." And I thought, of course I'm going to, I told mom everything. I didn't care who said what to me. It didn't matter. And I told her. And she was in shock, all surprised that he said that to me. And she said, "You have no worries. Don't worry about that. Don't be concerned with that." And so I wasn't. And so then when grandma's funeral came, me, mom, and Uncle Bud, um, they were arguing. We got out of the car. Aunt Faye was with us, and all these are big, gigantic, long stories, so I'm trying to keep it brief. Aunt Faye took off and went to Aunt Noreen's house, and I was standing I had gotten out of the car, and your dad said something to me, and he said, "I told you." He goes, "This ends." He goes, "I told you, I am going to put a stop to this." And mom called me to her, so I went around to her side, and her and I were going to the RV anyway because I misbehaved at grandma's funeral, and that was Daryl's fault, and that's a whole entire different story. It just happened on the same day. And so she was going to take me to the RV. And we all know what happened then. But I got in trouble. But before that, mom and Uncle Bud got into an argument. And it had to do with me and the relationship her and I had. And they were arguing, cross-talking, back and forth. And he looked at me, and because mom had said, "You have no worries, don't worry, I'll take care of it. You don't need to be concerned with it." And mom had said to Uncle Bud, "You better come up with something more than that in order for that to occur." And she called him. This is the first time she did it, because she did it a couple of days later. She called him a mean, cold-hearted man. And she was not nice about it. She raised her voice, and they were talking stern towards each other. An argument going back and forth, and they were not nice to each other at all. They didn't curse each other, but they were cross-talking, verbal argument. And mom actually put her fingers inside my ears really hard and tight and pushed them in, and then pulled me to her chest and held me there with her like this over my ears, where I couldn't hear what they were saying until they were done. And then she goes, "Come on, let's go." But before that, your dad had said that, the relationship you have with Teresa, you don't have with your other two that you gave birth to. You have two daughters. And and he goes, you treat her, he goes, better. And I don't mean any disrespect on this, and I don't mean it to hurt anybody. He had said that mom treated me differently. And she was towards me differently than she was you and Rita. And he used the word daughter. And I looked at him and I said, "I'm her daughter too. You know it. My uncles know it. Dad knew it. Grandma knew it. Everybody knew it. Everybody knew. Except those that didn't know." And he looked at me very crossly. So, and mom looked at me and she says, "Don't you dare open your mouth and say another word." And that's when she put they started to argue some more, and that's when she put her fingers inside my ears like this, pushed in and went like this and pulled me to her chest right here. And they were arguing where I couldn't hear what they were saying. I have no idea what they were saying. And then a couple of days later, that's when she brought me into the RV and told me she would probably never see me again, and I went hysterical. So that hurt. It hurt me that my father-in-law died. It hurt me that her and I had the argument the day of your uncle's death. Me and Tony's marriage was on the rocks to begin with. It had been for a couple of years. And so March 31st of 1992, that's when we separated. And Tony had told me, he goes, I never loved you. And that was a different thing. I mean, all this different stuff, it was a downhill spiral. And I didn't have anywhere to live. I had to go live in San Bernardino with these people I knew. Mom could not stand them. And nobody liked them. They never met them. Mom met, Uncle Ollie, your Uncle Ollie met them, knew him, Joanne, all different stories. And a couple of times he kind of knew him. And Mom met her on 2 occasions, didn't like her, heard stories about her because she was an alcoholic and stuff like that, and didn't like them. And so I went to go live at their house I was there for almost 4 years. And when I called and told Mom that, you know, the family dissolved my marriage, I told you this is what was going to happen, and I knew it would. And she had asked me where I was at, and I told her I was living at Joanne's house in San Bernardino, and she goes, well, at least you have a place to live. I said, I'm living at the house. I said, that where you don't like me to be. I said, I'm with the people. I said, you can't stand. And she goes, well, at least you have a roof over your head. She was right about that. And Joanne's daughters, actually, they were little still at that time. They were in elementary school. And the one gave up her bedroom, and the 2 girls shared a bedroom with each other, so I would have my own bedroom. I had just turned 27 by, a couple of weeks. So that whole entire thing was a fiasco. I wasn't working. I had no money. Tony wasn't supporting me. I didn't have a car. I didn't know what to do. I was relying on these people in San Bernardino that I knew. And my life, and it was a horrible thing. I was already in a depressive state from the previous year of 1991 when your uncle died, and then when Mom told me she would probably never see me again. And that's when Mom was still up in Atwater, on and off, settling grandma's properties and stuff. And I had called her at some point. I don't remember exactly when it was. And I asked her if I can come up there. And after arguing with me over it, because I said, I'll hitchhike. Because she said, well, how are you going to get here? And I said, I'll hitchhike. She said, don't you dare. And she said, you can get killed. That's dangerous. I said, then I'll go down to the truck stop. And I said, you can trust truck drivers. I said, and I'll get a ride with a truck driver, and have a truck driver drive me up there. And she says, don't you dare do that. She said, you come out of that, you do that shoes, and you come out of that truck of life shoes, you won't be sitting down as soon as you get out of that truck. She goes, I'll give you the biggest hug and kiss. She goes, and then you're going to get a whipping. And so don't you dare do that. And okay, I won't. And I said, well, can I come up and stay with you for a couple of weeks if I can find a ride with somebody that I actually know? And she said, if you can find a ride with someone you actually know, she goes, yes, then you can come up here. She goes, so you call and you tell me that you're coming, so I know that you're coming. Just don't show up. I'm like, yes, ma'am. So anyway, I got up. Scott, my friend Scott, he was going to come and bring me up there. And so that came to be, and Mike, my brother, and Scott were going to drive me up there, and his brother Randy. So there was the 4 of us, and they were going to drop me off. And so my brother Mike was like, yeah, let's just go. Let's surprise Aunt Marie. I said, okay. And I'm like, no, I can't, because she told me that I have to. Oh, I was going to go. And then Scott reminded me, well, don't you have to call first? She said you had to call first. I'm like, I just wanted to go. I was afraid Mom was going to tell me no. And she told me no. And I got into an argument with her, and she had said, I know that what I said to you, I meant what I said. I meant for you to come up here. She goes, but darling, she goes, I can't have you here. For reasons you don't know, for reasons you won't understand, for reasons I cannot tell you. And I threw a hell of a fit. I did. I stopped my foot. She told me to stop it because I would hurt my leg, but I didn't care. And I argued with her, and I cried, and I screamed, and I threw a fit. She says, I know you're hurt. She goes, but I can't have you here. So at that point, I was convinced she didn't want me. So as the months ticked away, I grew more drawn and drawn and drawn into a depression, and I went to a deep dark depression. And I just didn't care anymore. And I thought nobody around me loved me. I didn't have any friends. I didn't um, have anyone to talk to, even though I knew people and stuff like that I actually talked to. But I felt that nobody understood me. Nobody understood anything. And the only person that ever understood me and the only person I was ever close to was mom. And I don't have mom now. And so the only thing I could think about at that time period was everything that had happened up until this point of the age of 27. So I went from like when I entered the family at 18 years old, how I met everybody, the Waltmans and mom at 19. Tony and I got married when I was 20 years old. Being around everybody, started being around the Waltman family. Um, Mom and Uncle Bud came and saw us. We were Motel 6 managers all the time when I was 21. All the time and stuff I spent, how I asked her to adopt me, how she was a mother with me, and so forth, until this point of 27. And the argument her and I got in, how she disowned me, and that was resolved. But how she promised me that, don't worry, I won't let this happen. And she let it happen. And tried to sugarcoat it and say that, I told you after, one day would come that I would go to Florida and I would never be back again. Well, that day has come, type of thing. And that's what some of the words that she did say to me when she told me she would probably never see me again. And how that ended, that did not end well. She literally had to drag me out of the RV because I was not going easy. And I didn't go easy. So I was thinking about all of that, everything that would happen, all these memories, all throughout all these years, just was spinning inside my head, and I just became more withdrawn, and where I was in that deep dark place, and I also felt that mom didn't love me. She just threw me away like I was a rag doll. And I had said to her years prior, that I'm just a rag doll to you. I'm a light switch. You love me whenever you feel like it, and when you're done with me, you just throw me away. And that's how I felt, that I was just garbage. Your dad's gone, grandma's gone. You're done. You're not gonna come back to California. You're done playing house. So therefore, my pretend daughter, I don't want no more. And that's how I felt. And I'm sure it really wasn't true. But at the time, that's how I felt. And so in that letter, I wrote everything out. I had everything outlined. Every letter I ever sent mom, every card I ever sent mom, I always dated it. So all those have dates on them, months, dates, years. So as this one did. And I would always normally write my letters out, and I would say, Dear Aunt Marie / Mama, generally. And this is how this one was. And I just wrote whatever. And I remember on some one of the pages I wrote, and I can't draw. I can tell a story, but I can't draw. And I drew a broken heart because my heart was literally broken, and I told her it feels like it's shattered. Of everything that happened. And so I picked the day that I believe that I can remember. I picked the exact day that mom told me that she would not ever see me again, because I wanted her to remember that day. I wanted her last memory to know that. And I wanted her last memory of me. And I told her this in that letter, and I told her this on the phone. I want your last memory of me to be when you look at me inside that casket. And so when I had decided this one morning, this was going to be that day. And I was given codeine for my periods by the woman that lived at the house. Not, it was her sister-in-law who gave me the codeine. I had 2 bottles of it. I had a bottle of 90, and I had a bottle of, there was over 60 tablets inside there, and they were codeine 500. At the time, I did not know I had a heart murmur, and I did not know I had MVP, and I did not know that I was allergic to opiates at that time period, because I had taken codeine before. It didn't bother me, but I was not habitual with it, and I was not addicted to it. I would take like one, like when I had a bad period, and I always normally had bad periods, just to ease the pain and knock me out so I could go to sleep. So that's how I decided to commit suicide. And it was plotted and planned inside my head. I just didn't wake up that morning and decide, okay, this is what I'm going to do. It didn't happen like that. I did decide on when it was going to be. And I contemplated it probably a few weeks, actually. And it was probably not too far after Mom told me I couldn't come up to Atwater, and they weren't going to be up there for a while, whatever it was. And where she was done up there, because when she was up at Atwater at Grandma's house, I had 24 access to her. I could call her all day long and talk to her if I wanted to, but Mom was busy, she said, so she couldn't do that with me on the phone. But if I wanted to call her every single day, I could. And I generally talked to her whenever she said I could call during the weekday. And then I would just call out of the blue, and then she's like, darling, I have to go, I'm busy, going through stuff and sorting through stuff, or washing something or cleaning something, have to go to the attorney's office, whatever it was. And so anyway, so that morning it took a long time to contemplate it, to get up the nerve for it. I got a large glass of water, and I took those pills off the shelf that I had in that bedroom, locked the door, and I had the glass of water in one hand, and I had the pills in the other hand. And I took the pills and put them in my hand, and I just looked at them, and then just got up the nerve, and I took 2, like a couple at a time, and then I drank the water, and then I would take more and more and more and more, and then I would just pour some into my hand, in the palm of my hand, like 5 or 6 or 7, whatever it was, and I'd take them and I'd drink that water, and I'd do some more and do some more and do some more and do some more until almost that whole entire bottle of 60 was gone. After the first few, I figured, I'm committed now. Now, I can't, there is no going back. So at the time, it got easier and easier for me just to put pills inside my hand and go like this into my mouth and drink that water. I was crying the whole entire time. And so after I had almost all of those pills, almost all those 60 codeine 500s inside my mouth, inside my throat, obviously inside my stomach somewhere, I sat on the bed, and I said I was crying the whole entire time. And I was thinking about Mom and everything, and different memories. And I just went to go lay down on the bed, and I'm thinking I'm just going to go to sleep, and this is going to be it. Yeah, I don't remember writing a note. If I do, I don't remember. In my videos, I say I didn't write no note. I didn't read the Bible. I didn't read my Bible. That I do know, but I think I might have wrote a note. And if I did, I tore it up, after the fact. But I think I did write a note, and it was addressed to Mom. If I did do one, I would not have wrote a note to anybody else. And I was laying on the bed thinking about everything, and how then I started thinking towards the end, how would this affect anybody? And in my head, I just didn't care. But then I just started crying and crying and crying, and thinking, what have I done? What have I done? What did I just do to myself? And there's no going back. And then I thought, what if I die and I go to hell? because I'm a Christian. I'm taking my own life. And that's what got me. That's what stopped me right there at the very end. And I don't know how long those pills were in my body. In one of the videos I did, I say probably 15, 20 minutes. I actually do not know. That's just a guess because I don't know. I didn't time it. I rolled off the bed and I crawled to the bathroom, which was right across the hallway from me. And I induced vomiting because I do know how to do that. Being on my periods, I used to get very sick, and I learned how to induce vomiting just to relieve the pressure and the pain. So I know how to do it. I could do it now if I wanted to, but obviously I don't need to do that. And when I induced vomiting, some of the pills came up whole because they weren't quite dissolved yet. Some were partially dissolved, and then you could see in the toilet the powder remnants of the pills that were actually dissolved. But I did not go to sleep for at least a couple of days. I don't remember how many days I made myself stay up. But I did stay awake for a couple of days because when I had gotten to Scott's house, I had told them, and they knew we can't have her go to sleep. We need to keep her awake, to have the effect of the codeine to get out of my body. And Scott and his brother Randy were geniuses, and literally, and so they were pretty smart to know what to do. At one point they thought that maybe they should call the take me to the hospital and have my stomach pumped, but I told them about the pills coming up and stuff like that, so they didn't think there was no need. They just knew that they needed to keep me at least awake for 28 to 48 hours. Gave me coffee and stuff like that. And then after I said that I didn't have no effect in my body, because you could still feel whatever the remnants of the codeine, I said, I think I'm fine to go to sleep. And so they would, after maybe an hour, they'd wake me up, or they'd let me sleep for maybe 2 hours, but they would come and check on me, and they'd wake me up and keep me up for, X amount of minutes, and then let me go back to sleep and stuff like that. So that went on for a couple of days after I was at Scott's house. But after I had induced vomiting, I went back to my room, closed the door, locked it, and cried. And I just bawled, and I just didn't know what to do. I wanted Mom so bad, and I couldn't have her. And so that's when I had called Scott, and I told him that I can't be here. I was crying on the phone, and because he goes, "What's wrong?" "I can't tell you. I can't be here. Please come get me. Please come get me." And I just begged. And he goes, "Well, I'm not going to be able to come get you." He goes, "For a couple of weeks." I'm like, "Can't you just please come get me tonight? Come get me." And during the course of me talking to him, he had caught on that something happen. I'm going to make a part 2 of it so this doesn't roll over. Hang on a minute.